where Mongolia's renewable resources are vast compared to other countries with strong and growing demand for electricity. Of course, discussions on Northeast Asia power interconnections is not new. Many studies have explored the possibility of interconnected grids for quite some time now, and there have also been strong support by political leaders of Northeast Asia on this issue, without there being much progress made over the years. However, given the drive for renewable uptake and technologies making long-distance transmission possible at lower costs, we feel the time is right for Northeast Asia to make meaningful progress. So quite recently, ESCAP launched 2 reports on power interconnections. One is a regional roadmap that was discussed and agreed by ESCAP member states and outlines 9 strategies to enable sustainable connectivity. The second report was specifically focused on Northeast Asia and bring these 9 strategies to the sub-regional context and seeing what can be done in the short, medium, and long run to operationalize power grid interconnections in Northeast Asia. As a result, we have developed a vision for a green power corridor in Northeast Asia, which aims to take the region's support for sustainable development and align them with national policy objectives while integrating and building off existing research and ongoing projects such as NAPSI, the Asia Power Grid, and Clean Energy Corridors of ERNINA. Of course, realizing the green power corridor is by no means a simple task. There are complex and intertwined issues at play. Only with all of these building blocks in place, we will be able to achieve grid interconnection using renewable energy. These building blocks include the much-needed institutional framework and social acceptance, as well as the more technical building blocks on regulatory framework, infrastructure backbones, and financial arrangements. So now turning to the details of the project. The project is supported by the government of the Republic of Korea, and the framework will be completed in 2023. The final product will have 2 components, the roadmap of how the region should develop the green power corridor and the modeling component, which provides the supporting data and evidence for the roadmap and scenarios. We have 2 consultants working on this project, and I will be presenting on their behalf today. So the objective of the roadmap is really to propose a coherent vision for regional power grid connectivity development and suggest concrete steps for developing of the power grid connectivity towards the agreed vision of the green power corridor. And the summary of the roadmap will be looking at the 5 building blocks that I discussed earlier: the institutional track, infrastructure track, finance and investment track, regulatory track, and of course the social track. And just for your overview, the scope of the roadmap, here's the indicative summary of the timeline of the scenarios that we envision the roadmap to be covering. And today's presentation addresses the development of the institutional track, the first line colored in orange, to steer the cooperation on power grid connectivity and consolidate political trust as the key enabling pillar of the green power corridor. The institutional framework for regional cooperation in the Northeast Asia is quite fragmented. Yet there are several multilateral organizations covering broader economic cooperation. There is, however, no sub-regional organization for economic cooperation in the region. All of the existing institutions are either covering parts of Northeast Asia or go beyond it to also include other sub-regions, for example, APEC and the ASEAN +3 platforms. The cooperation on power grid connectivity is quite nascent, so first agreements between some of the key stakeholders have been put in place. These include like the MOUs between State Grid, KEPCO, and ROSI. Overall, there is still lack of regional institutional framework for power grid interconnectivity, but this is not unique to Northeast Asia. Other regions had to address lack of trust and general political hurdles as well. So what are the lessons learned from other regions? Most of the world is covered by regional power grid connectivity arrangements of some kind. Many regions are even home to overlapping regulatory and institutional frameworks, guiding power trade between the member countries. This map outlines the regional connectivity initiatives and electricity markets that have been studied to consolidate the main success and failure factors from different economic and historical contexts and produce some lessons learned for kicking off the cooperation on the regional power grid connectivity in Northeast Asia. International experience, of course, does not offer a tailored solution to the Northeast Asia connectivity slump, as it comes from different historical contexts, cooperation patterns, and the current stage of power grid interconnection of different worlds' connectivity initiatives. Comparing these different contexts is nevertheless worthwhile, since it offers one, an overview of policy options on the table and their possible effect. It is safe to assume that some things that has functioned in several different regional contexts proves to be successful and, if adjusted, applicable to Northeast Asia. So here you see the analyzed interconnections sorted by the grade of interconnection. As you see, only the Europe and North American context has an integrated power grid and power markets in place. Largest share of initiatives, power exchange, and trade is still being carried out over bilateral arrangements, though in many, particularly those colored in green, is the wish to express and move towards market mechanisms, and interconnections here are being further expanded. So looking at the evolution of institutional frameworks of different power grid connectivity initiatives, we can draw several lessons for the Northeast Asia region that have been true for most of the studied initiatives elsewhere in the world. For example, bilateral interconnections always usually precede regional cooperation, and broader institutional framework for economic integration and cooperation contribute to regional power grid cooperation. And support of international organizations act as an important guarantee for large-scale projects. And establishing cooperation dialogues on the regional power grid connectivity is usually a long-term process. So I won't go through all of the points here and move on to the lessons that would be useful for the Northeast Asia context. So graduality is really the key to a functioning regional power grid connectivity. And efforts parallel to national grid development are needed. Existing regional fora for economic cooperation, for example, GTI, could provide the needed environment for consolidating political will to support regional power grid connectivity. Exchange and coordination platforms organized and run by utilities and regulatory bodies on a regular basis are key for bringing the cooperation forward. And socioeconomic rationale for every part of the interconnection needs to be outlined and communicated as detailed and as transparent as possible to support the business case. And lastly, looping in international financial institutions and national PFIs in the dialogue and planning early on key to secure financial support. So based on all of the above, here's the proposed tentative timeline for developing an institutional framework for Northeast Asia to enable and support the cooperation on power grid connectivity. The first step is, and it doesn't have to be a formal high-level political event, but there needs to be an underlying agreement in principle on Green Power Corridor being a joint vision among the member countries. And in the following years, the capacities of NEARPIC, the Northeast Asia Regional Power Grid Interconnection Cooperation Forum, can be used to continue the working group level dialogue, polishing the roadmap and discussing the organizational aspects of institutions building, so that in 2025, the Northeast Asia member states can launch an interim secretariat for the Northeast Asia Green Power Corridor, which would be a working level platform for regular exchange and data sharing. The Secretariat would in turn power three main work streams, either as working groups within the Secretariat or standalone platforms. These could be the Northeast Asia Utilities Platform, an expert Northeast Asia Power Grid Connectivity Working Group, and cross-stakeholder working groups to test the outcomes of the studies and enable coordinated planning. The working groups are considered to be a key driver of cooperation on connectivity after the roadmap is being agreed upon, as they prepare the ground for higher level political agreements. And based on the working group work, a master plan for the regional power grid connectivity is developed on the roadmap, which will be a document created in coordination with national power grids, and based on the development of bilateral trade, formalizes the vision of regional power grid connectivity on the interstate level. And lastly, the approval of this master plan by member states would then be the platform for the first high-level political memorandum of understanding on green power corridor in Northeast Asia. So moving on to the modeling objectives. So the modeling objective is to analyze how power system integration can contribute to a clean, affordable, and secure electricity supply in Northeast Asia. And based the analysis on latest available information on national plans and policies, as well as renewable energy and transmission costs. And this seeks a consensus view of potential integration based on national inputs to provide a credible, transparent modeling platform that supports and forecasts, fosters regional dialogue on integration strategies. So the modeling would include a combination of both cases for connectivity and sustainability. On the connectivity cases, we would be looking at already existing and planned national bilateral and trilateral plans. For example, the Weihai-Incheon line and others that are discussed under the NAPSI framework, for example, and the Asia Supergrid proposal, and also the Northeast Asian Energy Interconnection proposals. And for the sustainability cases, we will be looking at the national determined goals and the net zero targets and the full attainment of SDG 7 scenarios. So for the timeline, approximately for the modeling activity would be completed by the end of this year. And then the outputs would be presented to stakeholders at a workshop that we are planning at the end of the year. And then we're planning to launch it together after getting feedback from stakeholders in early 2023. So for the overall next steps of the project, like I just mentioned, we will present the roadmap and the modeling work at the Northeast Asia Power Interconnection Cooperation Forum, which is planned to take place in December 14th of this year. And we will finalize and launch the Green Power Corridor concept at Ulaanbaatar Dialogue next year in June. And based on the agreements and discussions at the Ulaanbaatar Dialogue, we will also be doing concurrent and follow-up capacity building work on regulatory framework, as well as technical, operational, and financial issues. So that is the plan and the overall framework for Green Power Corridor roadmap and modeling. And hopefully next year we will be invited back to this forum to present on what we achieved during the year. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.